of the NFL.
You could see the fear in his eyes.
Yes.
You could.
It was like talking about like a mob boss. He's like, I won't say his name.
Exactly. Like he's Candyman.
Greg
Like,
Jennings.
yeah, exactly right. Oh, don't give me that look, Craig.
What? What'd Greg do?
Greg's shaking his head at me. I don't like it.
That's why it's going to be interesting. We have a power-packed show.
2 hours.
Oh, my goodness. You would think, hey, middle of July, nothing to talk about? Wrong. We're jam-packed. And we're starting with no CeeDee Lamb. Cowboys leading receiver wants a new contract. Is not showing up to training camp. Lamb led the NFL in receptions and all receivers with 14 touchdowns last year. Everybody got new contracts except CeeDee. Here's how the cash looks for everybody else. Justin Jefferson's got 35. A.J. Brown's got 32. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyreek making 30. That's not enough for Tyreek.
Well, he's not really making 30. He's making 25. The last year's a fake year. We'll talk about Tyreek later.
Then don't sign a deal with fake years.
Wilds is out here.
But I'm saying if my boss gave me a deal and it's like, and by the way, in year 5, you're making...
I'd check your deal to
my
see
deal
if that
ironclad.
Okay, but go ahead.
Does this cement Dallas as having a bad offseason? Greg, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. It cements them as having a bad offseason. When your best offensive player is not signed, yeah. And you didn't make any moves to back the statement of, we're all in. We're all in.
Did the opposite of that, actually.
You've done correct.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't go and get a running back. You didn't go and address a running back even in the draft. You go get Zeke Elliott.
Still got a little left. A little bit.
Little spot duty.
Sure.
But they didn't address that. They went backwards at the running back position.
And so when you have a guy who now all of a sudden had the best year in Cowboy receiver history, you paved the way. You moved Amari Cooper out the way to give this young man the opportunity to say, you know what, let's see if you're a number one. He shows you he's a number one. Your most valuable offensive asset, in my opinion, and a lot of the Cowboy fans' opinion on that offense, and you choose not to pay him going into year 5, this is exactly what he was set up to do. He did everything that he was supposed to do, and you choose not to pay him. And all you're doing, if you're Jerry Jones, is allowing the price tag to go up.
And it clearly has.
It's clearly going up, and it will continue to go up because if they go into training camp, and I do believe he'll be done before the season starts. I believe that. However, when you look at what his value is in comparison to even some of these other guys, it's skyrocketing. The more you allow Dak Prescott to be without him, it's just going to continue to increase.
Yeah, listen, they got absolutely nothing done this offseason, and they managed to at least temporarily go backwards with one of their 3 most important players. Because you now have one of your guys holding out. So that this 100% cements they had a bad offseason. And Jerry's line was, or Stevens, I think it was Jerry's, it's probably Jerry's because it's a little folksy, was like, we're waiting for more leaves to fall. Well, now the only leaves really that haven't fallen are Cowboy leaves, and they actually work against each other. Because the highest paid defensive player in football is Nicky Bosa at $34 million per. The highest paid non-quarterback in football is Justin Jefferson at $35 million per. So CeeDee wants to beat Justin. And then once he gets signed, guess who Micah wants to beat? CeeDee. No, CeeDee, because he'll want to be the highest paid non-quarterback. They both, you are in a position now where you're going to pay 35, just call it for round numbers, $35 million each. Because Nicky's at 34, Justin's at 35. So these guys are going to both come in around $35 million because you've waited this long. You have painted yourself into a corner where the only way you are going to be able to keep the 3 most important players on your roster is to hand out the biggest contract in the history of the NFL for defensive players, the biggest or tied for the biggest contract in the history of the NFL for wide receivers, and far and away the biggest contract for any player to Dak Prescott. That's the only way you're going to be able to keep all 3 guys. And the reason to kind of supplement what Greg was saying, Wilds, it's so indefensible, is none of this should have snuck up on you. When you draft a player in the first round, the moment you draft them, you should be like, man, we hope that we're going to give them a huge bucket of money in 3 or 4 years because it means they worked. It's not as if this was a fourth-round pick who all of a sudden in his contract year had 20 sacks, and you're like, geez, we didn't budget for this. We didn't see it coming. You saw it coming with CeeDee. You obviously knew it was coming with Micah the moment he got on the field. And with Dak, if you want to keep him, you've known this clock was ticking, and they got none of it done. So, it's indefensible.
All right. So, Greg, we've kind of floated out that he wants Justin Jefferson money. Do you think that's the case?
Of course.
Yeah.
He's
obvious.
When you
is he as good as Justin Jefferson?
Can we please look at these numbers for CeeDee Lamb? Because I have a full screen of his numbers, and when you look at these numbers, now none of us probably at this table would say he's better than Justin Jefferson
That's what I'm saying.
when healthy. But when you look at these numbers last season, and this is what he's going to put in front of him on the deck.
Justin Jefferson
he's going to say, "Hey, this is what I was. This is who I am." Targets first, receptions first, yards second, touchdowns third. He had the best, and then on top of that, the icing on the cake, I put up the best numbers in this uniform in franchise history.
Yeah, different NFL.
That's fine.
It doesn't matter, though.
But let me ask you in a different way, Wilds. Do you think, even if none of us would say he's better than Justin Jefferson, because I think most people think Jefferson, at worst, is the second best receiver in football. Him and Tyreek Hill are, to me, really the only two options to answer that question. Do you think he's better than A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb?
I do. I don't think he's better than Jamar Chase.
Okay, well, Chase hadn't gotten paid yet, so okay, great. Chase is not in camp. He's not getting paid. Hasn't gotten paid yet. He's going to. My point is this. A.J. makes 32. So even if he ends up not quite getting to Justin Jefferson, maybe I overstated it slightly. He's not the highest paid receiver ever, second highest receiver. He's going to clear A.J. Brown. He's going to get a minimum of 34 and a maximum of 36 million. That $2 million is not going to be the difference for the Cowboys. Like, they have put themselves in this position where, because they waited until after Devontae and A.J. and Waddle, all these guys got paid, and then Justin Jefferson, and they might end up waiting until after Jamar Chase gets paid. I don't know if Chase might have to wait a whole year. It's just going up. Just going up.
All right. Well, let's talk about Dak's future. The Athletics' John Machado ran a Cowboys fan survey, and there's a lot of pessimism. Even though 70% of fans think they'll win 10 or more games, over 50% of those same fans think they won't win a playoff game. Why? Well, one reason might be because Dak Prescott was voted the team's most overrated player. He got 251 votes, 100 more than Micah. This is also poor Zeke there. Come on, guys. Well, what? Not overrated.
Well, by you, he clearly is.
He had a good year for the Patriots.
No, there you go. That's why. Your commentary is pure.
Deron Bland
might be a little overrated.
Okay.
Those pick sixes probably not going to duplicate.
I know, but he was hunting. Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you agree Dak is overrated?
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Dak is definitely overrated as it pertains to the Dallas Cowboys, for sure. If in the offense, he's not the best offensive player on his own team. That's CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's not on there. But I think when you look at things like this, the Cowboy fan base is just over Dak, just like their executive officers are.
It seems
like if you don't have a quarterback that you're saying he is our guy and he is up for a contract extension and you don't extend him. Because even all this that we're talking about with CeeDee, what's going to come up with Micah, it could be pretty much it could have been alleviated a little bit if you had one of them signed. Right. Primarily your quarterback, because that's typically who you sign first. But the fan base knows, like, look, we're done with Dak too. Because he's one of the longest tenured Cowboys. So at the quarterback position, where have they struggled in the postseason?
Right.
At the quarterback